Hey, I'm Nicholas Prom,
I'm Jace.
And I'm Dylan.
and you're watching Posers Must
Posers Must
Die.
Die.
Hey, so this is a special episode, supplementary to our regular weekly programming. Uh, and this show, this is like a holiday gift for everyone, for all our viewers. And this show, we are going to be talking about Iron Maiden and Judas Priest in the 90s during the time when Rob Halford and Bruce Dickinson were not fronting these respective bands. In 1992, Rob Halford left Judas Priest. He wanted to try different things. He wanted to strike out on his own. He started his band Fight. 1993, Bruce Dickinson left kind of acrimoniously. He was really just unhappy in Maiden, and he, pursued his solo career. And it's a weird time. The landscape for rock and metal was shifting pretty rapidly in the early '90s, and uh, the world of heavy metal was kind of left without really the two leaders of traditional heavy metal for a time, while other kinds of rock and metal were kind of like taking hold or overtaking um, the classic stuff. And when they reemerged, I think it was they both these bands came back at a time when it was absolutely the most uncool thing in the world to be to like heavy metal or to be a heavy metal band, at least in America, and which was
Yeah.
a huge market for both of these bands. But in 1994, um, Iron Maiden replaced Bruce with Blaze Bayley, the frontman of Wolfsbane, a band who had opened for Maiden, and they had a great rapport with him, and had been the band was great friends with him. Um, and Yes, and they released in 1995 the album The X Factor, Maiden's 10th LP. Now, it is a people talk about it being a darker record. Uh, It definitely has a more somber tone. And to contextualize this, Steve Harris, the chief songwriter in Iron Maiden, he was going through a divorce at the time, and also kind of
Uh,
reeling in the divorce with Bruce. Because Bruce was slagging Maiden in the press. And for Steve, that's like you kicked my dog. You punched my kid. And so, Steve was having a real tough time, and it you can kind of feel it on this record. But I want you guys to talk about yeah, just your general feelings about this album, what you liked, what you didn't.
Dylan, you want me to hit it first, or
Go ahead if you want to, man.
okay? Well, this was actually my first time with all of these albums, aside from I believe the same with Dylan, Virtual 11, which I listened to but didn't realize I was listening to. And there are also a couple of songs. Well, I'll get to that later. Anyway,
Okay.
uh, first and foremost, Sign of the Cross album opener, 11 minutes long, risky business. I loved it.
Yeah.
it was a hell of it was a hell of an introduction to this Blaze Bailey fella. So
Okay.
I didn't know about Wolves. I mean, I knew about Wolfsbane, but I didn't listen to it like
Right.
beforehand to like go chronologically or anything. But holy hell, I was after that opener, I was ready for the rest of the album. Unfortunately, the rest of the album, there's always just one or two things per song that kind of didn't. I don't know how to explain it. I didn't hate any song, but it's always just like what it, I felt like something was off every time I was listening, or every track as it progressed. It was like sometimes hold on my notes here. It was like classic Maiden, but with Blaze singing, which is good. But then other times it was less organic.
Hmm.
Like when someone tries to replace the old singer, which I don't think he was necessarily trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
but in some songs it totally sounded like he was trying to. And those were the ones where it stood out, where it was like, oh, this is like really different.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
uh, Also, I noticed. I don't know if you're gonna get what I mean by this, but every couple of songs it has like a Fine Young Cannibals drum sound in there.
I don't get what you're meaning, but that's okay. Um, we'll have to consult Mr. Nico McBrain about that. I don't know what
Uh,
I don't catch that. Uh, but yeah, but besides "Sign of the Cross," which is a great song, there's actually a lot of great material on this record. What were some of your favorites and highlights and lowlights?
well, the highlights was "Sign of the Cross," which dethroned "Aces High" as my favorite Iron Maiden song, which is
Wow.
I wanted to make that perfectly clear before I say anything else about any of the other songs on here. Was that song that my favorite Iron Maiden song as of right now is "Sign of the Cross."
Wow. Okay.
But other than that, this album didn't really do a whole lot for me,
Oh, okay.
unfortunately.
Okay.
I again didn't hate it, but it was like I don't want to say I was bored, but I was bored. Like,
Oh, okay. Okay.
uh,
That's fine. Uh,
anyway, Dylan, what did you think, man?
Yeah. This. I mean, based on what Nick was saying when we prefaced this, I can definitely hear this album musically felt a little bit depressive and like sad, a slight bit, like compared to most other Maiden's classic material. But I was enjoying it. I think there were some good hits on here. Funnily enough, my three highlights for this album all have the word "the" in them. So we have "Lord of the Flies," "Man on the Edge," and "Blood on the World's Hands."
yeah.
Those were all great fucking songs. Um,
Yeah.
this album isn't anything crazy to like lose your shit over, but it is good. It's worth, if you've never heard it, give it a listen.
Yeah.
If you didn't like it when it came out, try it again. See what you think. You might have a different opinion. It's been a while. I didn't mind it. It was good. Uh, a few good songs on here worth throwing in the collection, I would say.
Okay. Um, yeah,
Cool.
oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I just said cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I generally, there's a lot that I like about this album. I think I probably liked it a bit more than either of you, sounds like. But yeah, I like all the songs that you guys mentioned. I also really like, I think the Aftermath's really strong. Fortunes of War. Um, uh, and Lord of the Flies. I really like that one too. Um, but it's interesting, they hired Blaze, and Blaze, okay, Bruce is a tenor. I'm talking about voice type, okay? And Blaze is a baritone, like me. Uh, and he aced the audition, but live he struggled with a lot of the Bruce stuff because it's out of his range. And
Mhm.
and the guys in the band did not help him by like, hey, let's play this another key in a different key so that it is. They just like made him kind of like tough it out, which like that's easy to do if you're not a singer or to just say, oh well, just figure it out. But you're not setting them up for success, okay? And
Sorry, I thought you were phasing out there. There was a Rock in Rio set that had "Sign of the Cross" with Bruce Dickinson singing it,
yeah,
and that kind of highlights what you were talking about. How I mean, it doesn't really. It's kind of the reverse of what you were talking about. How he just hit. It seems effortless for Bruce to hit all of this in a
yeah,
song that wasn't even necessarily written for him. It sounds like
yeah.
so.
I mean, he has an otherworldly voice, and his range is just like insane, And you
Oh
can
yeah,
be a great singer, and Blaze is, but
yeah,
there's a
yep.
lot of that that's really tough. He even like later kind of injured his voice because he was pushing so hard to do the Bruce material. Now, the Diano stuff nailed it. Like I would never attempt like a karaoke or in a cover band. I would never attempt Bruce material. I would have to be very selective. There's just
Oh yeah.
certain notes, screams, hot, things that he can hit that I can't. And I think that Blaze tried his damnedest and just couldn't. And you would have would have had an easier go of it because, it's not like he was the second singer in Iron Maiden. He's the third. He's not the first guy to be a replacement. But Bruce is so popular. People just like, they wouldn't give him a chance just because he isn't Bruce Dickinson. And I think that's really cruel. And
that's not fair.
And it isn't fair. But on his own merit, the guy's a great singer. And I really think there's an emotional quality to Blaze's vocal delivery that Bruce doesn't have. This is really like a feelings album, And remember, this is Steve's divorce record too.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's like also contextualizing. This is coming off of two pretty not awesome Maiden albums with Bruce. No Prayer for the Dying and Fear of the Dark have good songs, but they're not great records overall. There's actually a lot of bad material on this. This, at least, X Factor, it has some stuff that's kind of middle of the road, but there's nothing like, ugh, that's a bad song. So, but again, it's a lot of like, I think the hardcore people that were hanging on for metal, still flying the flag, had this. They shouldn't have felt this way, and I can't find the word I'm looking for. It's kind of like an unearned sense of betrayal because it's like, dude, they're soldiering on with a great guy, and yes, they're refreshing the sound, but it's nothing like betraying the Maiden sound. Not like they brought in alternative rock or grunge elements or anything.
Yeah.
They weren't pandering at all. And really, I think part of the issue is they're adjusting to a new sound, because if you listen to the reunion era Bruce records, musically, composition-wise, they have way more in common with this record than they do with Bruce's first run in Maiden, those 7 albums. You know what I mean? This sounds a lot more like A Matter of Life and Death and Brave New World and stuff like that than it does, say, Power Slave.
Okay, no, you're right.
Yeah.
I hear that.
But yeah, no, I do really like this record. But yeah, I think that's probably pretty good. Oh, go ahead, Dylan.
I guess I forgot to mention, like, I was talking a lot about how I liked the music, but yeah, Blaze is, like, don't get me wrong, he's a great vocalist, and like all of these albums, I listen to them on YouTube.
Yeah.
Mostly because I really appreciate looking at the comments.
Oh yeah.
Music that I listen to. Like, I appreciate hearing what other people that are fans of the music have to say. And every one of these albums, people are just like, I don't know why people don't like this. This is great shit. And it was no different for this. Like, I don't mind it at all. Blaze is a great vocalist.
Yeah.
I don't think he deserves any fucking hate. And if you hate on him just because he's replacing Bruce, you're kind of an asshole, to be honest.
Yeah.
I expected that. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I totally agree, Dylan. And it's shitty. Like it's like, why would you crap on somebody just because they aren't someone else?
Yeah.
That's really crummy. Like no one can be somebody else. You can only be you. And he has like a dozen solo albums too. And there's like 6 Wolfsbane albums now too. It's like there's a lot of Blaze Bayley material. If you like this guy's voice, there's a lot out there for you to check out. And if you watch footage of him, concert footage of him performing, he's an awesome frontman. The way he stalks the stage, the way he attacks the songs, he's really good. And on some of the Bruce songs, he's really good. He's really good on shit. I have to come back to this because I'm like blanking on the name of this song. But it's from No Prayer for the Dying, actually, and it's a kind of an unusual track. But I'll think of it and I'll bring it up later. But yeah, do we want to move on to Priest for a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's talk about Jugulator.
Okay.
So 1997, Priest have it's 5 years after Halford has split, and they kind of do an album that I think is really trying to be Painkiller Part 2.
Yeah,
Um,
I know what you mean.
I
Yeah.
think it succeeds only a little in that. Um, I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this record before I go.
Okay. I'll go again. Uh, well, first of all, I have some experience with Tim River Owens. He sent me what was it? Play My Game, his one of his solo albums.
Oh, okay.
Back, I think it was back in 2009, and I liked it, and I wrote a review for it, and then I asked if he wanted to do an interview, so I got to do a quick interview with Tim Owen. He seems like a really cool guy. Like he was
Yeah.
really really nice. So that was cool. That's pretty much the extent of my experience with him before all this.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's one of the things I had on here was that yeah, it's like a Painkiller Part 2, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, before we go further, I should contextualize this a little bit. So Tim had been in this band Winter's Bane, and they have like one album. But and in Winter's Bane, like one Halloween, they said when he dressed up as Judas Priest and were British Steel, and like the footage of that performance was essentially his audition tape. And then they're like, wait, because is he really doing that? And they brought him in, and they literally like picked the first guy. Because he could hit the nose, he could do it. They're like, okay, and he's like a young guy in his early 30s. This is our guy.
It was a good choice.
Yeah, and I will say my first pre-show was with Ripper Owens, and he was great. He's an excellent performer. I saw him again when he joined Iced Earth for a time, and I met him, and he was nice. I have nothing against the guy.
Cool.
I think, man, some of the things about it's like, yeah, you guys go. You guys talk about the album first. Yeah.
I appreciated his dip into harsh vocals. Like he'd have like a full on growl in some songs, like Bloodstained especially.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that this song, like as painkillery as it can be, like at one point in time I was like, is Gene Hoglan playing drums? Those crazy blasts back there. I was like, holy shit, this is great. But then it dips occasionally, and they started to add some chug that I was not ready for, some like Pantera-y kind of chug in the middle of my Judas Priest song.
I mean, it's the 90s. They're definitely embracing that aspect of metal at the time,
Yeah. But overall, I actually really enjoyed Jugulator, and I like the first time I listened to it as just as oh wow, me sitting listening, okay, there it goes, it's good. But then the second time around, I was like, okay, let's try listening to this somebody as like a Judas Priest fan, and I was like, oh no, I'm angry now.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. I get why people were upset, but enough time has passed, and honestly, this is my feeling for all of these albums. Enough time has passed for all of these albums where it's like it's almost not a different band, but kind of a different band. And
I
it's
think
easier to go back and listen to it as something separate, like a different animal.
Yeah, and I think we're so far removed now from the 90s that it's kind of like it's a perfectly okay or reasonable to kind of like go back and reassess these records. All four of them.
Yes.
Yep.
How does she do that?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, the thing is that they are kind of embracing some 90s like aggressive kind of thing, and I remember this was happening when I was in high school, and I don't remember the hate for Ripper. I seem to remember there was like a fair amount of goodwill towards him.
Oh, good.
I mean, I could be wrong, but that's my memory, And boy, did Priest really like tried to be like, nope, this is our guy now. They put out 2 double live albums during this time. They didn't even do that when Rob was in the band the first time. There's 2 live albums, but not double lives. Although it's kind of funny though, you listen to 98 Live Meltdown, for example, and the performances are great, but it sort of feels like I'm listening to a Judas Priest tribute record. Something is off, and it's like you really need Rob because Bruce Dickinson is not the heart and soul of Iron Maiden. Steve Harris is. But Rob Halford is the heart and soul of Judas Priest. And he's the chief lyricist. So, like, Rob Halford would never write a lyric about ripping someone's spine out.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen. And I think that's the thing that's not that doesn't work about this era of Priest is there's sort of a meanness to it, or it's like that uplifting thing that we have talked about Judas Priest in general. It's not there. And I think that's what it is. You can, and it's like, look, there's hot licks, there's like, heavy riffs, like it's on paper, this should work perfectly and be totally acceptable to any Priest fan, except there is that thing. It's like, we really do need Rob Halford. And that's not Tim's fault, again, because you can't just be another person. But he is an excellent singer, and and the two albums he's made with KK Downing now in KK's Priest are really good. They're really good albums. They're worth checking out, and I encourage people to do so. I do like this. I think the opener is strong. I like. I remember "Burn in Hell" as a pretty strong song.
Burn in Hell, yeah.
I love the album closer, "Cathedral Spires." That's really good. What do you guys think? What are some highlights, lowlights?
Highlights: "Bloodstained" and "Burn in Hell," full on. Lowlights: I liked all the songs. I didn't really have one that I wanted to throw in the con there. But something I would like to add about Ripper is that it's weird because Ripper, talent-wise, he could have actually been a fine replacement for either of the vocalists that are gone right now, or that he would.
Interesting.
I think he could have replaced Bruce easily.
It's possible, yeah, because I'm not 100% sure, but I think he is a tenor also. So yeah.
But yeah, I that's one of the things I noticed while listening to this. I'm like, it would have been interesting in a different world. Not if they switched, because I don't think they could have switched. But if Tim went with Maiden, like if he was somehow conscripted into that.
One kind of like counterpoint to that assertion is that although he probably has the range, I notice you never hear Ripper at least do like a lower register stuff that you would get from Bruce or Blaze or Paul.
Yeah, that's not a harsh vocal. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, okay. and I don't mean harsh. I just mean like that bassier, more baritone side of the voice. Because Bruce can go low and high.
Yeah. Okay, good point.
It's more open. Like his voice is more open, and Blaze's is too. Where I think like Tim's is kind of like a little more closed. Throat wise. But that would be interesting. Like, I'm sure he could do it. So to hear him sing a Maiden song would be very interesting. Yeah. Dylan, you've been kind of quiet on this one, or we haven't given you room. I'm sorry.
Well, I just don't want to get into one of those things where I like go to say something and we're like, huh? Oh no, you go first. But
Fair.
Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, I have a lot of things to say about this. This album is an interesting animal. Yeah. Where the fuck do I start? A long time ago, one of my friends sent me a song from this album, and I forget which song it was. I have it saved somewhere, and I really liked it, but I'm guessing I can guess which one it is now. And I saw this album cover again. I'm like, oh, it's this album, and I'm like, okay, I'm excited to listen to this. Like, I started with I start with the first song, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be like heavy Priest, like, and let me just first and foremost say, like, Ripper Owens is I think he's a great, replacement, for Rob Halford. Like, he can hit the same notes. He almost sounds just like him at times.
There are times, yeah. At times, yeah.
So, I was kind of pumped up for this, and I listened to the first track, and I'm like, all right, this is okay, and I'm getting into it, and to be honest, I thought this was kind of a weak album.
Yeah?
The one song I did like, you guys mentioned, "Burn in Hell," was really good. but a lot of the themes of the album were like very, you know, violent and shit, which I'm no
Yeah.
stranger to.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. I like that kind of shit. And I feel like I would have liked this album a lot more if I was younger. When I
Yeah.
was first getting into metal, I was looking for music like this. I'm like, what it, you know, one of the main reasons I got into metal was because every fucking song isn't a love song. And I was sick of love songs. So like
Right.
I got into metal, I'm like, oh great, a song about crushing a guy's skull. Oh great, a song about fucking war or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I would have loved these kind of songs when I was younger, but I found a lot of them to be pretty weak. I liked the opener, like it was okay, it was like mid. Burn in Hell was a great song, and the album closer, Cathedral
Cathedral
Spire,
Spires.
a pretty good fucking song as
Yeah.
well. But I agree, this is like, I mean, thematically at least, this is like Painkiller's little brother.
Yeah.
Like we have a titular, like badass kind of like supernatural sort of character here, the
Yeah.
Jugulator, and he gets his own title song,
Yeah.
just like the Painkiller. But I don't know. I don't know. I appreciated Ripper's vocals on here. They were great. I just think like the lyrics were kind of weak,
Yeah.
and the writing was kind of weak, and you know, it wasn't anything awe-inspiring to me.
Yeah. I think there's sort of a sameness to a lot of the material on this and the next one. Uh, and I think it does not help their case, you know. It's like it's fine. This is a pretty good record, but it's not like it's not any fun. And I think that's a big like, hey, this is Judas Priest we're talking about. Why is this so mean sounding? You know, I feel like I'm being judged by this record, by the things that they're saying. No, I'm serious. By the things that there are being expressed in it. It's like, whoa, guys, like I thought we were gonna like rock out and have a good time. It's a Judas Priest record, you know, um, and
I have kind of a, if you'll excuse me, I have
oh,
kind
go
of a
ahead.
harsh thing to say about this now that I'm thinking about it.
Okay, yeah,
And I feel kind of bad about this, but it almost feels like they were trying really hard to put out some material,
mm-hmm,
and they just went with whatever the fuck they had.
yeah,
Like they just came up with some shit really quick, and they pushed it out.
yeah.
And you know, that's not. I mean, our special here is about the vocalists, I guess, but like just the
But no,
album itself.
it's about Maiden and Priest in
Yeah,
general too.
it just feels like something they were just trying to like. Okay, this is good. This sounds good. Get it out the door. It's like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's kind of like, okay, that's good enough. Move on to the next song. You know, just like we got to
Yeah.
get a record out. Okay, and I get that. Yeah, I don't think you're. I think you're right. I think that's definitely present on this record. Um, yeah. Do we have any more thoughts on Jugulator, guys? No. Okay. Well, why don't we move on to the second and final um, Maiden record with Blaze, 1998's Virtual 11. Uh, I'm going to tell you guys right off, I love this album. This is really good. I like it a lot. But I will let you guys go first in as far as like songs you liked. Dylan, hit it.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh. Well, I just want to say, quick little story. Way back in, fuck, what was it? 2013, 2014. Do you guys remember when dubstep was the thing?
I do.
Everybody
Yeah.
loved that shit.
Well,
Uh,
I didn't,
I
but
had
yeah.
I had a stoner buddy, and he was hard on dubstep. He fucking loved that shit. And I was just getting into like classic heavy metal, like Maiden and Dio and Priest and all the good shit.
Yeah.
And I just happened upon the song "The Klansman" from this
Yeah.
record, and
Very
I
nice.
fucking love that fucking song. It is so good. It is so powerful. It's just
Yeah.
an anthem almost. Like even though it's long as shit,
Yeah.
it's good. And I remember like my dubstep buddy would like he just play some shit for me. He'd go, dude, listen to this. Wah 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 wah. And I'm like, hold on a minute. Hold on. Can I play something? and I would put on some Maiden. I'd put on the Klansman, and he's like, "This sucks. You suck." You know, he'd be a little bitch about it.
Yeah.
But so my opinion on this record is, first of all, I also love it, Nick. This is
Yeah.
a really good fucking record.
Yeah.
The only song I've ever heard, and I've heard this song many times, is the Klansman. Having heard that song so many times and loving it so much, going back to this record and listening to all these songs from the same record that I've never heard before, and they all are in the same fucking vein, and they all have the same energy and composition, and like they all have the same beauty as the Klansman. I was fucking in love with every song on here.
Yeah.
Fucking Angel and the Gambler.
Yeah.
The Klansman. When Two Worlds Collide, Educated Fool. All great fucking tunes. I love this record. And, you know, just before I end here, this came out on March 23rd, 1998. You guys want to feel old? That was 12 days before I was born.
Oh, fuck you. Okay. But okay. Jesus. Yeah. So I do want to say one thing I forgot to mention about the X Factor is that if I could say anything to improve on that record, because I do like it, is that it could, and I don't know what I would replace, like take off to replace it with, but it could have stood to had a couple of more up-tempo numbers, you know?
Yes.
And this album delivers that. If the material's more varied, I think it has more balance. I love this album. I think Future Real is one of the most banging songs that Maiden's ever written. I think The Klansman is one of the greatest epics in their career. I mean, like, it could have been on Somewhere in Time, dude. It could have been on Seventh Son. It's really good.
Bruce sings that too. Bruce, they still sing that. They still perform that one to this day.
Yeah.
So.
And I love that. And like, I really like Angel and the Gambler. I would love to hear that live. Or Future Real. I would shit, you know, to hear Future Real. But yeah, I really like this record. And it's so funny because it's like, it is the lowest selling Maiden album of all time. But also, this was coming out at a time when record sales still mattered. And it was totally a business decision to like bring back Bruce, you know, because Bruce is like, he's got a solo career, but he's playing like clubs, you know. It's like, look, we can get back into arenas, you know, if we all get back together. And Bruce was like, okay, I'll do it, but you got to bring Adrian has to be part of the deal, which is pretty cool. But Adrian has come, but you can't kick out Yannick, so they became a 3-guitar band, which is very interesting. But I love that they stood by his mate to do that. But here's the thing about this record. In general, like, they're like, oh, poor, weakest sales. Album sales does not mean great album sales does not mean this is the greatest piece of art ever created. You know what?
Clearly.
This didn't. Yeah, okay. So was the lowest selling Maiden record, but it's also great music. And I think people who haven't given it a chance or gone back and to reassess it, they're missing out, because this one's a banger. Yeah, Chase, I haven't really let you talk. What do you?
I hated it. No. No. After the tepid reception I gave the first one, this one fucking bent me over and spanked me. Oh, you don't like that, huh? Whack! Educated fool! You uneducated fool! Smack! Like, I love that song.
So you like this record?
Oh yeah, I know. I like this one. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it felt like, again, it wasn't. Every one of these albums is a different beast than what we're used to.
Yeah.
This one felt the most similar in a good way, like how we said the last one was like how Dylan said it was Painkiller's little brother.
Yeah.
This one, like, it was trying to ape the old style. This one feels like a natural progression, which is what I assumed it was going to kind of, I guess I hoped it would be with the last one.
Yeah.
But I guess they had they need their hiccup before they get back on track. And unfortunately, after this, like you said, Bruce came back. So
Yeah. And I want to say this is also a happier, a warmer album. It's a little more upbeat. You know, like I said, you know, the X Factor is kind of a somber album. Great, a lot of great songs, but yeah, this one has more of the classic Maiden vibe. The people who wanted them to just keep making Power Slave or Peace of Mind. Dude, like listen to the music of this record. There's a lot of that. But it's also kind of a marriage of that and the direction that Maiden would go further. I mean, the Klansmen could have been on Brave New World.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
and would have been cool. But I'm glad Blaze sings it because I love his voice on it, and I've listened to Bruce sing it live, and it's like, you know what? It's good, but it's not as good as this.
Yeah.
You know, Blaze beats him here, man. But also should be noted, you know, back when Bruce left Maiden and was slagging them off, he wasn't slagging Blaze. They were friends. He was actually one of the few praising him. And it just, he got such a shitty deal from the fans and, just the metal scene in general. Like, the guy's a great guy. You watch interviews with him, he's a goofball and a sweetheart. Okay?
Aw.
And, he seems like a great guy, and he's a terrific singer and a great performer. I love watching interviews and performances of this guy. This guy is just terrific. And you can see his whole heart is in it. And I can't, how can I be mad at that? You know? But yeah, I love this record. It's one of my favorite Maiden albums. But yeah, any more? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, any more thoughts on this album? And you do.
Well, a couple things I forgot to say. This really sounds a lot like classic Maiden. Like they really, went back and even though we have a different vocalist here, when I was a kid and I was listening to this as I was talking about, I couldn't fucking tell that this wasn't Bruce. I didn't know anything about that shit. This sounds like Bruce to me. He totally fucking Blaze is a perfect replacement. He sounds completely fine.
Yeah.
And just like everything else, I was reading the comments and they're like, "Why don't people like this album? Why don't people like this? Who doesn't like this?
Right?
Literally who?
Yeah.
I'd like to meet one fucking person, and I'm not gonna.
They're out there.
I swear. I'm
They're
not
out.
gonna hit him. I swear. I just want to meet one person.
Yeah. But yeah, and the thing is,
It's
crazy. It's like, Bruce and Blaze have different voice types, and so their ranges they're not the same. But Blaze does have, on the low end, many of the same qualities that Bruce's voice has. And I just I like the way he emotes in his voice. Like, he's really puts his whole being into these songs. And it just, I don't know, there's a real impact to that.
I think he figured it out on this one. I think he figured out how to I think he worked with the people doing the instrumentals, and he figured out how to, like you were saying, get in the key to sound, to make his voice match the instrumentals and sound more like traditional Maiden.
Interesting.
As opposed to what you were talking about with the X Factor and how he because he sounds completely different on the X Factor. These almost seem like two different vocalists. These two different albums.
Interesting. I hadn't really considered that. I just I think also it's kind of for that album's like the first time they worked together, and now he's been in the band. He's been in the band
That's what I'm saying.
for several years.
He worked
X Factor was the growing pains, and then virtual.
Yeah.
Was,
Yeah. Interesting. That gives you something to think about. But yeah. But overall, it sounds like we all dug this record, which is great. Do we want to talk about Judas Priest, 2001's Demolition?
Oh boy, I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I think Jugulator is pretty. They went from pretty good to pretty bad. Pretty bad album. some records, like some albums, like this group of songs really feels like an album, and they have it ebbs and flows and ups and downs, peaks and valleys, right? And some albums just feel like a bunch of songs, and this is an album that's just a bunch of songs. And I think a lot of them are kind of bad. There's some ballads on here, and they'll have a beautiful melody with stupid, stupid lyrics. Um, and yeah, I got more, but you guys go.
Uh, I didn't. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, and that's fine.
Again,
You
but
can.
again, it's the whole. It's been 20 some odd years. Like I can separate it. I don't have to sit there and be upset that it's not. Oh, it's our old vocalist.
Oh,
I don't understand that.
my
But
distaste for this record has nothing to do with it not being Rob Halford. It has,
I didn't.
yeah.
But people, yeah, and there is plenty here where you're like, this is Judas Priest. Is this Judas Priest still? It sounds like Pantera. It sounds like some of it sounds like Rammstein, Subterfuge. Some like I was kind of zoning out, like, Du hast what? What's going on?
Oh God, but they are kind of like embracing more of those like trendier, 90s. I know it's 2001, but like kind of elements, and it's kind of like it dates this record and not in a good way. And like the closer, Metal Messiah, it's like, this is a fucking new metal song on a Judas Priest album. What? Damn it!
I was like, Metal Messiah. Is that like that sounds like it could be like an old cover or something that I don't recall. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
Oh, was that? Oh my.
Yeah. Ooh.
I'm starting to. But people don't like this one.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed it. Like Tim would dip down into like a Chuck Billy kind of growl sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
I appreciated that, but again, it actually it's not again. I'm just repeating what you're saying. It's like some of these fucking lyrics are just ridiculous.
Oh yeah, and it's the only Priest album that has an explicit tag. It has some F-bombs.
Oh my God, isn't it?
And I'm like, and I just think like, I think they were trying to like, what are we gonna do? How can we be Judas Priest, but also try to like differentiate and like make it, oh, this is a totally new, different Judas Priest. Like have a different identity. And it's just like, it's an album. It's an album and a period for the band. It's like they're neither fish nor fowl here. Like you're making something that's not going to satisfy either camp. Like, why don't you try to make something genuine?
Yeah. Another bit of damning evidence about how we all kind of like I said, I like this, but I can see why people don't. Another bit of evidence to that is the song "Lost and Found" was on.
Oh man!
And my daughter walks in, Chimera. She walks in and she's like, "Dad, why the fuck are you listening to Creed?"
Did she really say that?
To God, dude.
Oh, I love you, Chimera. Oh, that's hilarious.
I just looked at her and the laugh, like it came out like, no, that's going in the review, kiddo.
Oh, that is too good. I mean, wow, dude, that's great. Oh, I love that kid. Oh yeah, man, yeah, she is awesome.
For context, she's 16. She's not like a toddler walking down. What the fuck? No,
Yeah. Oh my God, that is great. You've brought her up correctly. And we have not given Dylan a word edgewise, please.
No, I wanted to hear what you guys had to say first.
Okay.
Because I wanted to say that I love this.
What?
Unpopular opinion. I love.
Okay, you love this album? Okay.
Let me explain before you put a blindfold on me. And
No.
on the fucking firing wall.
I will never do that, but I want to hear why.
Look, I grew up with metal that sounded like this. Like,
okay.
My childhood was the early 2000s.
Okay.
Every fucking time I would go to the mall and I'd go in Hot Topic or Spencer's Gifts, or I'd just see some goth kids hanging out, they were listening to this shit. This was playing in the stores. This kind of stuff was on speakers everywhere. People were blasting this out of their cars. This was early 2000s metal. and this is the metal I knew from my childhood, like that. Before I even knew any metal, I'm like,
Right.
oh, that shit sounds kind of cool. So when I hear stuff like this, it brings me back, and I'm like, oh, that sounds like stuff I heard when I was a kid. And I
Fair.
really
Okay.
like this, and I can also understand why people did not like it, because this is not Judas Priest at all. This sounds nothing like Priest. This is a separate fucking band. They should slap a different fucking band's name on this record. I mean, even it says Judas Priest, but it doesn't even look like the Priest logo.
I know they changed their logo for these records. And I'm like, why would you
Yeah.
rebrand like that?
Because
That's
it's
a weird
different
flex.
thing.
Yeah, but dude,
But-
like, to what you're saying, it's like this is totally like sounds like mall metal. I mean, like this could
Yeah.
a lot of this material, a lot of this shit could be on a fucking Drowning Pool record,
Yeah,
you know?
But
And
I-
right?
if I can continue,
Yes,
like I
please.
said, this is the shit I grew up with. I love this kind of shit. I love shit that makes me feel like I'm in the early 2000s again. And I'm listening to this and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Is this Alice in Chains? Is this Prong? What am I hearing? Yeah, and
Hey, Prong's
like a
pretty
couple of
good.
these songs, Cyberface, Lost
Oh,
and Found,
man.
like total Alice in Chains kind of fucking vibes.
Oh my god.
Metal Messiah, I didn't really like that song too much, but I still thought it was a good song.
Okay.
2000s as fuck, Metal Messiah.
Oh
That
man.
song is so fucking crazy and weird.
Yeah.
But songs I did like, and one thing I want to say is this is what I thought Jugulator was gonna sound like.
Oh.
Getting Jugulator. So like being disappointed by Jugulator, and then I get to this and I'm like, ooh, okay.
Wow. I
But,
did not expect this. Okay.
Songs I did like, I think these are songs, In Between and Feed on Me. I like
Yeah.
those two
Feed on Me is
songs.
pretty good actually. Feed on Me is okay. Maybe
yeah.
maybe the album highlight actually.
I'm not mad at this. I mean,
Okay.
I guess I was a hardcore, sweaty, fat Judas Priest fan, and I'm like, oh, new Priest, and they come out with this, I'd be so mad. But retrospectively listening to this, I'm not mad at all.
Okay.
I like it, and I'm sorry I like it.
No.
It's good.
If you like it, hey, no, listen. If you like it, cool. I'm not, no, because here's the thing, I'm not about attacking people for what they like.
Yeah.
And if their opinion is different than mine, whatever. It doesn't change my life. It doesn't do anything to me. So like, whatever.
That's a good way to live, my friend.
It's the only way. I mean, Jesus, life is too short to like get into histrionics. Like I have this really good word and I can't think of it right now. Damn it. But like I don't have the kind of time for that kind of like bile. I don't have time to be like, I hate this and I hate you for liking it. The vitriol. I don't have time for that kind of vitriol. And but I don't dig this record. Like Jugulator's this one less but like it's funny.
I will. Bloodsuckers is an awesome song.
Do you? Yeah, that one's okay.
kinda
That one's
like that
okay.
one, too.
That one's okay.
He had this great high. How could they sleep at night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a good line. And no, and like so yeah, like Feed on Me and Bloodsuckers, which thematically share some shit, I think.
Yeah. Right.
But so yeah, there's a sameness like to a lot of the material on it. That's the thing. But I think those are two pretty good tracks.
Okay.
But it's funny, I was like a pretty big Priest fan at the time and went and saw them on the tour for this record. I didn't listen to this album back then, weirdly. And I don't know why. I know everyone hated it. Like it was pretty universally panned at the time, as I recall. And Jugulator, I don't remember getting that hate. I think there was a lot of goodwill, and like again, a lot of goodwill towards Tim. They were playing in way smaller venues. I saw them at the Roseland Theater, which was amazing. Getting to see Glenn and KK and Ian Hill right there, like holy crap. That will never happen again, but yeah, interesting time, but when Halford came back, everyone was that. Like, it was like the return of heavy metal, in America.
I can imagine.
So in 1999, 2000, Maiden went on tour. Yeah, 2000, Maiden on tour with Bruce, an arena tour, and they had the Halford solo band as their direct support, and that album rules. Resurrection, from Halford, great album, and that was just kind of like, it was sowing the seeds of like, okay, heavy metal is bouncing back in America, and it's only a matter of time before Halford's back in Priest. And we were right. He was back in 2003, and I think I saw Priest twice in 2004, and then not again until I'm not sure when, but I know I saw them a couple of times with Halford, and then again recently. Only 3 times with Halford, yeah, I don't know why I'm on this tangent. We're talking about Demolition, but are we ready to kind of go like? Oh, go ahead.
Just one more. I can totally understand where you're coming from, Nick. I can put myself in your shoes, and I can understand someone not liking this, and it's not amazing. But
Sure.
it just scratches a very personal itch for me.
And I 100% get that. I have stuff that I really like objectively is like, this isn't great, but but I have warm fuzzies because of where I was at the time and what it meant to me at that time. Some stuff is just kind of like, and that stuff is like unassailable. You can't argue against it, even though rationally it doesn't, like, no, it's not. It's pretty bad, but
there's so much shit like that. Like even with movies, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have the same kind of itch. I mean, this is off topic, but like the Resident Evil movies.
Oof, yeah.
People hate those, and they are awful.
Yeah.
But I like them because
Sure.
I grew up with them.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Same kind of thing. And I also, the last thing I want to say is that album cover is weak as fuck, and I could tell just by looking at it exactly what kind of album it was gonna be just by looking at it. That is such a fucking weak album cover.
It's lazy. It's such a non-album cover.
Well, you just know, like when you're looking through Metal Encyclopedia and you're looking at a band that's been around since the 80s, and you look at something they came out with in the late 90s or early 2000s,
Yeah.
and it has a cover like that, you're like, oh, I know what happened to those guys.
Right? Oh yeah. There's a lot of things. It's always kind of like when the classic band changes the logo, red flag. When they things like that, or like, what's this weird ass album cover that doesn't look. I'll see bands where like they'll have a totally not metal looking album cover, and this kind of does, but not in the right way. It's kind of like, okay, what are we in for here? But yeah. But how about, why don't we get to like kind of the post-mortem overall? What do we think about this period of Maiden?
I was kind of lukewarm about the first one, but the second one I adored. So
yeah, interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was I think I covered it earlier when I said growing pains, and then they learned to walk, and now they're off running, and then race is over. Old guy's back.
Yeah, yeah. With Maiden, I really like both of the albums. I like the X Factor and Virtual 11. I like Virtual 11 a bit more, but X Factor I listen to regularly. Like these albums are in heavy rotation. These Priest records will not be back. Are leaving the rotation probably forever. I mean, I cannot see myself really going back to listening to maybe more than like a song or two from Jugulator. I do like the opening track on that, and Cathedral Spires is a nice song. It's a good track. But like a lot of that material is pretty mediocre at best. And Jugulator or Demolition, like woof, for most of it for me. Dylan, what do you think overall for each?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really say like in the then and there, because I wasn't there.
Right,
at that time.
and I can't ask that of you.
Retrospectively, I would have to say Iron Maiden fared better. I mean, I'm not crazy about X Factor. I think it's a little weak, but Virtual Eleven is fantastic, and I can't imagine a good Maiden fan uh, getting mad at that. But I can, even though I like Demolition by Priest, and I wasn't crazy about Jugulator, I can completely understand people not being mad at Priest. So I think Iron Maiden fared better um,
I
in that
agree.
time frame,
I
just
agree.
retrospectively.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think what with Maiden we have two really overlooked albums, overlooked and underrated, big time. And
Oh
with
yeah.
Priest, I think they're albums that I understand. They're understandably dismissed. You know, it's not like they're like garbage. And if you're just a general metal fan, there's plenty to like on these Priest records. But I think on a musicality level, you know, these Maiden is stretching their legs in the right way, and I think they're they've these the Maiden albums have aged way better. I'll put it that way.
Hmm.
Mm,
What do you
yes.
think, Chase?
Uh, I was thinking it's as in general, this whole thing is just kind of a Wild West kind of experimental laboratory for metal. Like you were saying, it was kind of dipping and waning in popularity in the U.S. and this was just uh, I don't know, like a second primordial ooze for something to crawl out of, and it was like, come on, Maiden, come on, Priest, let's give us something good,
Yeah,
and this is what we got. But things did return to normal over time and progressed even.
yeah.
Not progressed even, exceeded. Like it kept getting
Sure,
better over time.
sure. Yeah, I mean, the Priest albums in their reunion era are all pretty strong. I think we last week we reviewed Invincible Shield and we all loved it. Uh, you know, it's like Priest just keeps climbing that mountain. They're, you know,
But
and Maiden on a in a live setting on the global setting have outpaced every other band in metal except for Metallica in popularity in concert sales. You
Hmm.
know, like holy crap, they are the second biggest band in the genre in the world. And
it doesn't feel right.
well, but
Is what it is.
it is what it is, you know. And uh, uh, and progression is I think the key word with Maiden because the reunion era Maiden albums are so proggy, you know. But it's
Oh yeah,
uh,
yeah.
uh, it is a riding of the ship with them in that they really floundered on the last couple of records they made in the first Bruce era, and then after the Blaze era, the Blaze records, they've kind of continuing in on the path with the two albums with Blaze, um, but it's kind of like best of both worlds, you know, as far as these new records, which I have really warmed to. I was not keen on them for a long time, but really have a new appreciation for them of late. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. What do you guys have anything else?
No, I
No,
enjoyed my. Dylan, you go ahead, man.
no, go, no. Mine's for whatever after what you had to say. Go
Oh, okay.
ahead.
I enjoyed my time in these albums. I'm glad we got to do this so far removed, and I didn't, no, I didn't get
Yeah.
to be hyper emotional about it or anything. If I was totally into, if I were able to be a fan at the time or anything like that. But yeah, I hope we get to do more specials like this in the future.
Oh, good. Well, I think we will. I think we have behind the scenes. We do have another special planned that we'll probably have out before the new year. I'm not going to announce what it is yet. It's definitely something that's going to be the baby of you guys. But yeah, um, really, I'll just kind of like up the irons and hail to the priest. You know, man. Uh,
I I'm just curious. Like, so we all agree that like Iron Maiden
oh yeah,
fared better.
Maiden
All right.
definitely
Yeah,
All
wins
right.
in this time.
All right.
they
Uh,
came out clean this time. Yeah.
yeah, it's
I almost wanted to put like this little thing we're seeing here. I wanted to put little verses in the middle, but I thought that would be kind of shitty.
Well, it would have been fine, but what you did was good. I really like this thing that you cooked up. I love that, and I love that you bring that to the show, Dylan.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
But yeah, Dylan, you were saving another. You had another.
That was it. I just want to know everybody agrees on Maiden.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, usually I am a way bigger Priest fan, but in this case, oh, Maiden just wins
Yeah.
big
All
time. Um, but I do really like Ripper Owens as a singer. He's a great performer, no shade on the
I
man.
agree.
And I love the heck out of Blaze Bayley. I hope that I get a chance to see him, because he is great. But yeah, if we don't have anything else, Chase, why don't you hit us with our sign off?
Okay. Well, you challenged me to try to get a reference from both bands into the sign off, and I completely and totally failed. I was not able to do that. However, I would like to say to our audience, thanks for watching on this Black Friday! Take the devil on the wall! Like, comment, and subscribe.
Okay, so a Megadeth reference instead. But you know what? Megadeth, Dave, Dave loves Maiden and Priest, so there we go. Thanks for watching, and good night, everybody. Thanks, guys.